Welcome to the golf edition of Hooked on Sport. This is South Australia's summer golf wrap, where we uncover the stories, personalities and moments that define golf across South Australia and beyond. It's time to talk golf with sports commentator Ben Hook and state golf representative Sophie Hilditch.
Thanks, Wallace. Hello, everyone. What an amazing week it has been in golf here in South Australia and right around the globe. It has been just an incredible week. I love taking the opportunity to break it all down, and there's no one better to break it all down with than the super insightful Sophie Hilditch. Soph, hello, and congratulations. What an amazing win for you on the weekend.
Yeah, we had a great win, us Royal Adelaide girls. Very excited. Pumped just to be playing Pennant golf. I feel like I've been speaking about Pennant golf for 4 weeks.
No, not talking about your win on Sunday when you played, but you had a big win today. Tell us all about that one.
Well, I didn't really do anything, but it was a huge win. I had a 7-6 win on the bag.
There you are. Now you know what I'm talking about.
With your lovely wife, Sarah Cheer, who played unbelievable at Glenelg Golf Club. The team didn't get over the line, but Sarah absolutely smashed it. She was just an absolute bullseye. Every time I told her to aim somewhere, she just aimed directly at it. It was getting quite scary, actually. I was a bit terrified to get the wrong line every now and then.
So she sacks one caddy, employs a new one, and goes out and wins 7-6. There's something to be said for a good caddy, I would have thought.
I don't know about that, Ben. There's only so much you can say. If your player's not doing it, you can't do anything. You're just stuck there talking and just trying to make words happen, and it's a mess. But Sarah was easy to caddy for. I don't know why you've had so many issues, Ben.
Well, I did get I thought I had her to a win last weekend. She was one up about to play the last, and the fog rolled in at Mount Osmond, and they called it off, and it gets halved. I mean, Sarah couldn't have done any worse than a half, and Deb Percy couldn't have done any better. So they basically, because of the fog, they basically say, Sarah, you've lost the last hole, which is a little unfortunate, I think. But anyway, that is the vagaries of match play golf. And yes, we will talk about your incredible win over Glenelg a little bit later on in the show. But I always like to start with Sophie's star. Who was it this week?
Well, I feel like I'm taking a leaf out of your book, Cookie. I'm going Glenelg's Jack Tanner.
Give yourself a yellow card.
Oh, no, not like that. I'm just going a local legend. I'm going Jack Tanner, who won the Kionga A-grade Saturday comp with 45 points. He took a leaf out of Cassie Porter's book and shot 10 under, 9 birdies, 1 eagle and a bogey on the card. He's currently at Q School at Moonterlinks trying to make it on tour, but unbelievable college golfer returning home and playing incredible golf. So Jack Tanner was my Sophie star.
He's spent a bit of time on the Australasian PGA Tour this year. Didn't have a great time of it, so I think he's going back to reclaim his card, and so we wish him all the best with that. But I tell you what, if he produces any sort of form like that, that gets underway tomorrow at Q School. So, good luck to him. Hope to see him back on the tour next year. But, 62. What an impressive performance around that layout. Good one, Soph. Well identified, well spotted. Lachlan Matthews for me, not sure if you know who I'm talking about, but it has been a really tough year for Thaxted Park Golf Club this year. They are probably odds on to be relegated after what's been an exceptional performance from them over the last 15 years. They have spent pretty much all of that in the top flight, and we know that they are a tier 2 club, and they're plucky and they're spirited. They're not the most talented team going around, but gee, they're good fighters. And Lachlan Matthews is just one of the next breed of tough little fighters that comes out of Thaxted Park Golf Club. They played Tea Tree Gully on the weekend. He was matched against Matt McMahon. And Matt McMahon, friend of the pod here, I've had a long interview with him a couple of weeks ago after they had won in round 2. He's one of the returning stars to the Tea Tree Gully Golf Club. Anyway, their match was all level pegging going down 18, and Matt had set himself up for about a 4-foot birdie putt, and that was going to be, if he'd made that, if he won the hole, he was going to win 2 up. If he halved the hole, he was going to win 1 up. So he's got about 4 feet for birdie, and young Lachlan Matthews is right over on the other side of the green for 2. So he's on in 2. Well played. The young kid, you know what Mount Osmond, the final green, is like when you're hitting from the right-hand side of it as you're looking at the hole to the left-hand side. He's got maybe 70 feet. He's probably got 4 or 5 feet of break to play. Well, he holds the putt for eagle to get out of his match with a half. And I just thought, you know what? That is just the most Thaxted Park thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, just this young kid. Who knows where he's going to end up with his golf? He was a dead set teenager. He was younger than I thought he was. It's the first time I'd actually seen him in action. And I just thought, there hasn't been a lot for Thaxted Park to celebrate. Lachlan Matthews eagling the last to get out of his match with Matt McMahon. So impressive. And I've got to say, everyone was thrilled for him. All of the Thaxted Park boys got around him. The Tea Tree Gully boys were really, really supportive. I mean, they're just really comfortable in their own skin, those guys. Matt McMahon, I spoke to him afterwards, and he was really pleased for the young kid as well. He lost half a point, but he was actually really pleased for his opponent. So it was a really beautiful moment, and I just thought it warranted Ben's best for this week, Soph.
I love it. A bit of a South Australian celebration for this whole Simpson side, seeing this young fella drain a 70-footer. So, no, excellent choice, Hookie.
Let's do around the grounds as we go around the nation and around the globe. So if you can start and tell me what happened in the WPGA Championship, which was played at Sanctuary Cove and won by a fairly familiar name.
Yeah, she's getting more and more familiar for our listeners. It's Hannah Green, a 4-shot win over Germany's.
How do you spell
that? It's just like the colour, Ben. But a
Yes.
four-shot win over Germany's Alexandra Fosterling and South African Cass Alexander. Green wavered a little bit in the final round. Her tee shots were going kind of everywhere, but she showed why she's world number 7, because she was just scrambling her ass off around Sanctuary Cove, and that's pretty hard to do. There's a lot of water. The greens are pretty slick. They're pretty firm as well. So it was really impressive to see her. She birdied the 9th and kind of took off after there. But that lead got to only 2 shots around the turn, and she then got it back to 4 shots. It was super impressive. She's actually the first ever Australian to win a hat trick of titles in major tour events. So I'm feeling a little bit sorry for her original caddy, because Jared Felton was on the bag, her husband again. And I think Jared Felton needs to give up his career as a professional golfer and jump straight to Hannah Green's bag.
Well, there's probably more money to be earned. I think he's about 1,800 in the world, Jared Felton. Hannah Green, what, number 8 in the world?
7 now.
Yeah, 7, yeah. Well done. Do you know who her normal caddy is?
No, I don't actually.
It's David Buhai, who is Ash Buhai's husband. And they are stuck in the US because they're trying to get green cards and become US citizens. So that's part of the reason why Jared has taken on the role. And my goodness, it has worked, hasn't it? So I think you'll find that he will go back to playing and David Buhai will take the job. Ash Buhai, of course, a 2-time Australian Open champion. So, yeah, that is a really interesting story, that one. But, yeah, what an impressive performance from Hannah Green. Just to back it up after winning the Australian Open, would have been easy for her to say, I might just phone it in this week. But to back it up and win back-to-back after winning on the LPGA Tour in Singapore the week before, what an incredible 3-4 week run she's had. Tell me about the LPGA Fortinet Founders Championship, where a couple of Aussies were back in action, Soph.
Yeah, well, a lot of the Aussies. We had Cassie Porter, Minjee Lee, Grace Kim. They all headed straight back to America to play in the Founders Championship, which is a great championship. It celebrates the founders of the LPGA. It's really a tournament you want to win. It was won by Hyuju Kim of South Korea. She was 6 under on day 3 and went into a 5-shot lead into day 4. But then Nelly Corder just came straight at her. And Nelly Corder's been in a bit of hibernation really over the past 2 years. So it was good to see Nelly Corder back on the leaderboard. By 10 holes, Nelly Corder was firing. She got it back to all square. But to be fair, Kim regained the 1-shot lead on the next hole with a birdie and really used it as fuel to get it over the line. Nelly Corder 3-putted the 17 to get a bogey, and Kim hit this miracle flop shot out of the rough to about 2 feet to just tap in for par, and then came down the 18th with a 2-shot lead, and a bogey was good enough to do it. It was an incredible win. But our Australians, off the back of the Aussie Open, in particular, Cassie Porter, T5 for Minjee Lee and Cassie Porter at 10 under. Robin Choi, 9 under, T12, and Grace Kim and Karis Davidson, a T45, 3 under. Karis Davidson in particular had an amazing 54 holes. She was playing incredibly. Unfortunately, she shot 6 over in her final round, so just came home with a few wet sails. But Aussies, straight off from coming from the Aussie Open, to then travel back to America, the jet lag they would have experienced, just incredible effort from all the Australians.
Yeah, well identified, Soph. So, yeah, congratulations to the winner. But in particular, we're very proud of the Aussies who come back routinely for the Australian Open. The men, you can't say that they uniformly turn up, but the women certainly do. And then, not all of them stayed for the WPGA Championship. The ones who went back, great to see them perform. In particular, Cassie Porter. I think that's a good point, Soph. I mean, she had that 62 in the final round, and it would be easy just to rest on your laurels and just go around the course, but to really follow that up with an impressive performance in a really good field. Congratulations to her. Valspar Championship, that was the major tournament on the PGA Tour. It was won by Matt Fitzpatrick at 11 under. This course was set up really tough, Soph. So if you see scores like this, under normal circumstances, it's because the weather's been horrendous. It's blowing 30, 40 knots. It was nothing of the sort. This course was set up very dry. They haven't had a lot of rain, and you don't often see that on the PGA Tour. Generally, they go for softer conditions, lots of lush green. They like the green for the television, but this was set up really tough. So Matt Fitzpatrick, he was runner-up at the Players last week. He copped the rounds of the kitchen from the crowd, being the Brit taking on the American Cam Young over there at the Players and the huge galleries there. So I was really pleased for him. This was a very, very B-list leaderboard, if you like. Brandt Snedeker was up there. David Lipsky was up there. But when Matt Fitzpatrick sort of ran past them in the final stretch, shot 3 under in the final round, which was, when you think about who he was competing against and what the course conditions were like, it was a really impressive final round. So it's a tough event, the Valspar, coming the week after the Players. So that will give it a bit of a shot in the arm. The fact that it is a really interesting course and it is a tough course, and we've had an A-lister win it. Matt Fitzpatrick, interesting, won the US Open. He's only ever won twice outside of the US Open on the US Tour. He's had heaps of wins in Europe and won a lot of the Masters Series events over there. But his 2 events that he's won is the week after the Players, this week, the Valspar, and about 3 years ago, he won the week after the Masters at Harbour Town. So they're unusual sorts of tournaments to win. Often a lot of people don't play. I think Matt Fitzpatrick is unders there on the US PGA Tour, and it'll be interesting to see if this inspires him. He's been playing so well. Good start to the year, then runner-up win, if he can get on a bit of a roll from here.
Well, I thought it was interesting as well. Matt Fitzpatrick's round was incredibly interesting. Around the turn, so, going through that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, he had 4 birdie putts inside 10 feet and missed absolutely every single one. And apparently in his press conference, he said, I looked out, saw a leaderboard thinking I'd be at least 2 or 3 shots back because I wasn't, taking control of my game. Saw that he was in contention still, and then drained a 30-footer on 15, and that's really what set his round off, and he got in and got the win. It was incredible. It was just interesting to hear. It's like he must have been so frustrated and thinking the rest of the field must be blazing forward, because if I'm having 10 feet for birdie, most people would be holding some of these. And then to see the leaderboard and get that fire and go, hang on a second, I'm still in it.
It made a cracking birdie on the last as well and got it done by 1 in the end. So, yeah, it's a huge win for him. I'm really, really pleased for him. Live South Africa. So what an event. Huge crowds. Another great week for Live. Regardless of what your thoughts, your underlying attitudes towards Live, they've had another very, very good week. 100,000 crowds at South Africa. It was played at the club in Stain City. It's interesting, Soph. It's a gated community. There's only about 2,000 people that live in this community, but they've opened it up and let 100,000 people in. Another very, very soft, very easy golf course. That was in part because they had a lot of rain. It's also in part because the Live tournament organisers are not serious people and they do not set up challenging golf courses. So Fitz, we were talking about, he was 11 under to win the Valspar. 11 under was 37th. That was Seb Munoz. There was only 2 players over par once again. So I think that's a shame that they continue to wheel these out every week. Only last week in Singapore was it a real test for the players, but every other one of the 5 events have been just absolute pillow fights. And I think it's a shame, and I think that will not do them any favours in the long term, in particular when their players, that was their last event now before the Masters. They've got a couple of weeks off and then they'll play the week after the Masters. So I just don't know that does their players any good, and I don't know that it does their global standing any good either. Enough of that. The players were absolutely into this, Soph, and I thought that was interesting. Bryson was emotional afterwards. Paul Casey was in tears while standing on the side of the green and doing an interview afterwards. And I've lost a lot of respect for Paul Casey after seeing that. That was just the most pathetic, confected thing I've ever seen in my life. They're also starting to talk about Live South Africa as a better tournament than Live Adelaide. And very easy to say when you're in the moment and you're in and amongst all of those crowds, isn't it? But I'll be interested to see if that was some recency bias and maybe some common sense will settle down after that. Anyway, it was a great week for Liv. They've had a few, and you look at the list of winners this year, so we've had Elvis Smiley, who wins in Riyadh, and he's the new wave. You know, he is representative of the guy that Liv we think are going to be trying to tackle more and more. These young guys who don't have a US Tour card and therefore don't have a capacity for necessarily huge earnings unless they win a bunch of tournaments, and he gets an opportunity to play and Live and collects up the $4 million paycheck US for winning Live Riyadh. And I reckon that would have twigged with a number of other people. Anthony Kim wins in Adelaide, the comeback of the decade. What an incredible story that was. And since then, it's been John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau. So, you know, the bosses, the bigwigs of the league. So, yeah, look, I still think that there are some question marks around Liv and what they're trying to do and what they should be standing for. But at the same time, they have had some very, very good weeks this year. And for a league that we thought, oh, gee, I wonder if it's going to make it to the end of the year, you know, they're still making inordinate losses, but they've got a lot to sort of hang their hat on as well at the same time over the course of the last 6 weeks. I don't know if you saw any of this. It's sort of hard to watch. It's buried away late at night. Did you get the opportunity to have a look at it?
I didn't get an opportunity to look at it as it was going live. My Instagram reels is more where I saw everything from Liv and the emotional crying and the comment of South Africa being the best Liv. Obviously, Adelaide fans are getting a bit angry at that, understandably, considering Adelaide Liv has been the best Liv for years, for the whole of Liv Golf's existence. But I do like your point, as it's been a good year for Liv so far and who they've had as winners. It's probably the first time I've shown more of an interest in Liv than I have in the past, and it's because of the winners that they're having. Elvis Smiley, obviously, and then Anthony Kim was just a beautiful comeback story. And then obviously, like you said, you've got the big hitters in John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau, who haven't been winning as much. And I think also because it came down to the playoff with Bryson and Rahm, just made it way more entertaining, way more fun, seeing best players playing at their best again.
Yeah, I mean, Liv Adelaide has had winners like Brendan Steele, you know, names that are just so incredibly forgettable. Taylor Gooch is another one of the winners that, you know, I mean, if you bumped into him in Rundle Mall, you probably wouldn't recognise him. So, yeah, the fact that some of those big names are winning, I think, is absolutely tremendous. So, it's time for the Pennant review. We are going to start with the Sanderson Cup, and we're going to start with Royal Adelaide's epic defeat of the reigning champions, the Glenelg Golf Club. You were in it. You were taking on Zoe Manton. You led a team that was not inexperienced, but certainly didn't have a lot of runs on the board, I would say, at Sanderson Cup level, and you have prevailed 3-2. How did you do it?
I don't know how we quite did it, but I will say, and I said it in the lead up, Royal Adelaide have done a lot of work in building a team and building a squad. So the girls were definitely up for the challenge when they thought they might have been playing Pike, stepping up to Sanderson, and the support was unbelievable from the whole of the squad. We were keeping updated with our Pike girls scores as well. So I think that's really what's made the difference for our team this year. We're obviously ecstatic about the win, but it's only game one. We've got a long way to go, but it was an awesome win. Our number 5, Kat De Silva, got over the line, and so did Laura Birchmore against Jill Hodge, which was a huge win for Laura. And yeah, and then I managed to get the job done over Zoe Manton, which was awesome. I mean, the game was so much fun. I had so much fun with Zoe. I always do. She's a lovely girl. We were talking around the fairways and generally just having a chat, obviously still wanting to beat each other. That doesn't really change. And, you know, you're celebrating when she holds a 10-footer, but you're also thinking, damn it, like, yep. That's not good for me. But it was a lovely match, played in good spirits, and it was a good win for Royal Adelaide.
Kat De Silva, her first ever win at this level. She must have been absolutely ecstatic after getting revenge on Grace Ferrier. That was the person that she played against in her first ever Sanderson Cup match, the semi-final last year. So massive result for her.
Yeah, huge result for her. It was actually a rematch of the semi-final. We basically all played exactly the same people. I think Laura and me were the only ones that switched it up. I played Jill last year and she played Zoe the year before. So I think that's the other thing. We had a bit of fire in our bellies. We really felt like we should have got it over the line in that semi-final last year, and we're pretty disappointed when we didn't. So we're all gunned up, ready to go. And yeah, all the girls were pretty excited, but our mind's already set on next week's game.
Laura Birchmore, I put her down as my must-win in the preview show last week, and she relished the extra responsibility of playing at number 2. Had Jill Hodge beaten by the 14th hole, so well played, Laura. Congratulations, and we want to see that regularly, for certainly the Royal Adelaide people want to see that regularly from Laura, and she's certainly more than capable of doing so. I want to ask you about your win before we move on, though, Soph. I think you were 1 down through 6, and I reckon you've ended up winning 4 up. So you've gone 5 of 9 holes winning, which is pretty impressive. I don't know what your form was like leading in. You weren't playing a heck of a lot of golf. You must feel very chuffed that you were able to take on someone like Zoe, who had the early ascendancy, and you really turned that match around.
Yeah, when you say 5 and 9 holes, I hadn't actually stepped back and looked at that. You don't really think about it in the moment, but yeah, it was five wins in 9 holes. It also didn't feel like that at the moment. It felt like Zoe could get back into the game whenever she wanted to. She was hitting the ball amazingly. It was actually a really good game. You're right, I wasn't coming into the game with the best golfing ability I've ever had, but the game was great. It was of a very high standard. We both actually had our dads on the golf bag, which was really cool. So it was a dad-daughter combination for the whole time. And I think it's probably the first pennant match I've ever seen where a dad didn't get kicked off the bag and there was not a single fight between dad and daughter, which was also a win, but probably because we were both playing well, so there was nothing to really grumble about.
I think Uncle Rob caddied for Zoe in the State Amateur Classic during the week as well. So, very close family, the Mantons.
Yes.
Good to see. Brad probably out there as well. Was he watching?
Brad wasn't there, but I have to thank Uncle Rob for finding my ball on the last hole. I duck hooked it into the tree and Uncle Rob came and found Sophie Hildich's ball, which maybe Zoe wasn't too happy about because I ended up winning that last hole. Luckily winning that last hole, I should say. I hit a beautiful pitch wedge to about a foot for a gimme, but yeah, found my ball, and I think maybe they're having words at the family table on Sunday night.
Royal Adelaide 1 from 1, despite starting the season a couple of weeks later than everyone else. Glenelg now 0-2, and they've got a big challenge coming up next week against Blackwood, and we will talk about that match in our preview show, which will drop later in the week. Let's talk about Grange defeating Kooyonga, Soph, and this wasn't just a defeat; this was an absolute annihilation. The Grange 4.5 to 1.5. This was a real statement piece from the Grange Bob.
Yeah, it's a huge statement piece. I didn't really see the win being that big, if I'm honest. And all the games Grange were quite comfortably winning. When I spoke to Kooyonga manager halfway through the game, she was saying it was a bit up and down. So potentially maybe Kooyonga just faltered a bit towards the end of their matches and faded a bit away when the game started to run away from them, because it sounded like at the halfway mark there was all really close tussles between Grange and Kooyonga. But yes, Grange really stamping their mark on the Sanderson League at the moment.
Three things that stand out to me, really, 3 very quick points. Firstly, any club that can afford to put Caitlin Roberts in Pike Cup is very, very strong and has a heck of a lot of depth. There was some funny little ducks and drakes going on. She was named in both the Sanderson Cup and the Pike Cup team, played in the Pike Cup. They'd named Louise Glennon as the reserve, who played and won comfortably. But when Caitlin Roberts can't get a game in your Sanderson Cup team, you've got a good Sanderson Cup team. Point number 2, I'd say, Kooyonga, very, very young. They had Scarlett Parker and Tammy Twiss, who probably have maybe never seen Blackwood before, outside of maybe the odd little, trial match or, pre-round, pre-pennant hit or something like that. They may have played a Varden, they may not have, but it's not like you go and play Pike Cup at Blackwood. So it would have been a very new experience for them, and maybe it's understandable that they didn't bring their best stuff. My third point is Amelia Winnie is in incredible form right now. Whether she's playing amateur events or whether she's playing Pennant, she is just, I reckon, the standout women's golfer in South Australia right now, and I'm interested to see who she's going to line up against this coming weekend, Soph.
I am too, Hookie.
So, yes, congratulations to the Grange. They certainly come in to be short price favourites for the Sanderson Cup as we reach, well, it's not quite the halfway point, is it? Because there's 5 rounds. Everyone plays 4 matches, but the Grange 2 from 2. They are certainly the lead team at the moment, and we'll be talking about their clash with Royal Adelaide later in the week. Let's talk about the Simpson Cup, Soph. Mount Osmond defeating Kooyonga. It is the most incredible result. I caught up with a couple of the Mount Osmond people, Ben Walters and Todd Bond, in the aftermath. They were absolutely cock-a-hoop, as you could imagine. And Mount Osmond, who have been in Pennant, in Simpson Cup, just for 2 seasons in 30 years. They came up in 2024, had 2 halves, never had a win. This is their first win of a contest in Simpson Cup, we believe, in 28 years. So what an incredible story that is. And they've beaten Kooyonga, of all teams.
Yeah, it's huge. We're a bit of an apology. We basically told them Kooyonga, but we did mention that we thought Mount Osmond could do something and make it close. But we also called Kooyonga top 3 players all got the win, and it was really that bottom order of Mount Osmond that just rounded out those wins. And Heath Ritchie's unfortunately going 1 down 18 was really the deal breaker in the end, that middle order, that middle captain.
Yeah, no, you've identified it really well. So Nick Hill was playing the last with Heath Riches. Heath, I reckon, had about 10 feet for birdie. Somewhere more like about 6 feet for birdie, but it was Hill who made a 10-footer for birdie, which ended the match, and he won that 1-1 up, and that was the difference because Mount Osmond had got the first 3 matches in 7, 6, and 5. Kooyonga had the last 3 matches in 3, 2, and 1, and that match number 4 was the difference. I did speak to Todd Bond, Mount Osmond's Pennant manager, after the round, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, no, it was a big result. I was happy for the guys, to be honest. They put in the work and just getting closer and closer, and it didn't really matter who we got to win with. We were happy I was just looking for a win against someone, but then especially against Kooyonga, is a great result for the lads, and just validated the effort and that they deserve to be here, to be honest.
So, yes, so if there you have it, makes them feel like they belong at that level. And they have demonstrated that this year in spades. They went loss, but all 3 of them, they were really solid performances. And now to beat Kooyonga, yes, on their home course where they do have an advantage. But anytime you beat Kooyonga, you have to have played exceptionally well. And that's what they did.
Yeah, look, I love the fact that he was talking about how it makes them feel like they're belonging, but their losses were only like 4 and 3. They were getting close, and I'd be scared to see what Mount Osmond do at the end of this season, having beaten in the middle Kooyonga, a big hitter, a favourite to potentially lift that cup. Mount Osmond, I'd be a bit scared of this team.
In my chat with Todd Bond, and I don't have the audio of it, but I can assure you that he also made the point that they're a different team this time around because they've got experience of playing these courses. You go and play A2 each week and then front up and see if you can win at Kooyonga and Royal Adelaide and the Grange. I mean, they're just chalk and cheese, the types of courses that they're playing on. So the fact that they've had a look at these sorts of courses and getting that second opportunity, and I guess have a bit of an understanding of what they're up against. And they just decided, well, we're not going to lay down and die. We're going to be up for the fight. And that's exactly what they've done, and all power to them. And yes, I think you're right. If they stay up this year, and they've got that banana peel match against Thaxted Park next weekend, so if we'll talk about that later in the week, but if they stay up, you would think all of that extra experience and that extra confidence that they belong at that level, they could potentially be pushing for a final next year. I mean, we've seen Tea Gully do that this year, and that may be the way forward for Mount Osmond going forward. We'll start to think about them later in the week. Tea Gully have defeated Thaxted Park. It was a business-like performance. They won 4.5, 2.5. Again, I've got to say, Thaxted Park, the last 2 weeks now, they've got nothing to show for it. They went down so close to Royal Adelaide 2 weeks ago before the Women's Australian Open. And, of course, this week, 4.5, 2.5 to the top team, Tea Gully. But they're around the mark, Thaxted. It might just be that around the mark isn't enough this time around this year. But you know what I feel like? I feel like all 8 teams are in it. We talk about all 5 teams in it in the Sanderson Cup. All 8 teams are competitive in the Simpson Cup this year. There's no easy beat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's the same thing. You look at 4.5, 2.5, and you're thinking, oh, that's an absolutely demolishment from TTG. But if you actually look at the games themselves, Thaki aren't going down easily. It's all 2-1s, 3-1s, 1 up. It's all close games, and Thaki are definitely still in this.
100%. I observed Tea Tree Gully after the match. They're just really, I think I might have just said it before because it's in my notes, but they're really businesslike. They're not trying to rub Thaxted Park's noses in it. They didn't aim to get great joy out of smacking them 7-0. They just got the win and they moved on. You know, I really like their mentality. They're confident and they're playing well, but they're not trying to prove anything to anyone. They're all on the veranda together, sat around a big table. Their caddies, their manager, Dylan Reed, and most of their players were there. They were happy to have a chat. They're in good spirits, but they're just in the moment. I really like where they're at, Tea Tree Gully. They're probably not the premiership favourites in my mind at the moment, but they're the first team into the semi-finals. They're a game clear on top. They're undefeated. They've still got a couple of big matches to come, in particular this week against the Grange at Kooyonga, of course. But yeah, I just really like where their headspace is at. They're really well led by Sadira Botaju as well. I had a conversation with him after the round. This is what Sadira had to say.
The first part is done if that's the case, but I haven't checked out all the other scores yet. But if that is the case, so which is good, that maybe achieve something that we want to achieve to get into the semis. And then from that on, it's just a ball game. Sometimes we go coin just to see whether it's go your way or not. And I think everyone, just doing their bits and yeah, hopefully we'll have a good run at it.
Just a couple of other ones for Thaxted Park. Pacey Lyle, his first win for the year at playing at number 1. So well done to Pacey. That's a big win over Chris Austin. And Julio Alejo, his first win ever at this level. So really pleased for him to get something out of his year. So if we're going to move on to Grange, who defeated Royal Adelaide, 5-2 was the result. I think it probably looks a little bit worse than it actually was for Royal Adelaide. They were in a lot more matches than that. If you look at Will Arnold, Mr. Birdie putt on the last, that would have halved with Alan Zinn. And Ross Steedman produced the most outrageous up and down from the bark chips 50 metres away from the green to make a birdie putt from about 8 feet. Incredible stuff. I mean, the quality of golf is just superb, but that was the difference between Billy Cawthorne winning and that match being halved as well. So if those two things don't happen, and, ifs, nuts and candy butts, or if butts and candy nuts, I think was what I was trying to say, but it would have been 4-3, and then it looks really close, So 5-2 for the Grange. Well done to them. Pacifico, a huge win at number 1, which was really important for him as well, because it's the toughest job in golf playing number 1, South Australian Pennant Golf, and he's had a half and a win now, so he can be pretty pleased with his season from where he wasn't really even in the Simpson Cup team 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's having a good season at number 1. Number 1, like you said, is a tough position to play, and it's really a coin toss. Got to admit, maybe it was the pep talk I gave his caddy before his caddy had to hop on the bag, and I said, you've got to get him over the line this week. He was, I think, my must-win.
Yes, his caddy also being your fiancée, Darcy O'Neill. So, yeah, I know Darcy was very pleased as well, which was great. And you know what? As a caddy, you live it. You live it just as much as the player. So as much as Pasif would have been very happy, I'm pretty certain Darcy would have been as well. Spoke to the Granger's Ross Steedman. I also spoke to Alan Zinn afterwards. He's 4-0 this year. There's only 2 players 4-0, him and Malachi Marshall. He knew it as well. He even said to me, I'm not going to lie, I was going down the last hole desperate to try and keep my perfect record intact. And he said, yeah, it was very unlucky that Will Arnold missed the putt that he missed. But yeah, he holds his record intact. But Ross Steedman had this to say about Granger's win.
Yeah, I think before we started the day, we said this is a really good opportunity to not fully cement, but get that one step closer to the finals already, which is pretty huge. You just want to keep winning in these things all the way to finals. So, but yeah, for us to get overall, they've got a couple of young kids as well on their side, so they're not that far off either. But good win again today for Grange, which is great.
So if that leaves us with Glenelg, who have bounce back, and probably the biggest story of the week. Man, Osmond obviously is up there, but Glenelg, who looked like they were on the verge of missing the semi-finals, have bounced back in with an incredible 6-1 win over the Vines. Again, another match that looks a lot bigger margin than what it actually was in real life. But super performance from Glenelg to bounce back from where they were at and win so emphatically against a club that I had warm favourites heading into this clash.
Yeah, that's huge. 6-1. It was a big game for Vines and Glenelg. Both of them really would have wanted that win, with both not having the best start to the season. So huge for Glenelg. That's massive for the Premiership team.
So if I'll tell you something about this match, Nick Wake beat Rob Liddell 3-2. Rob Liddell was actually the guy that I identified as the must-win last week for the Vines. But that 3-2 was the biggest margin of any of the matches in this contest.
Whoa.
So Cade Bryant's won over Sam Earl 3-1. I mean, the King has had his crown just dented a little bit. Jackson Leonard and Ben Pearce halved. Michael Munn beat Andrew Feibig 2-1. Mick Phillips beat Corey Apthorpe on the last. Simon Galley won 2-1. Ryan Fletcher and Paul Gregory halved. So you would feel, and the Vines, very comfortable in their own skin, experienced guys, but they would feel like, didn't play too bad, don't have anything to show for it. And I know Glenelg were very, very satisfied to take all of those extra points, that percentage you will get from the match wins. I did speak to Michael Munn after the round. He is the Pennant captain for the Glenelg Golf Club. This is what he had to say.
To see us fight the way we did, and everyone came ready to go today, it was very, very pleasing to see. And young Jack Leonard has been going really well and practicing as hard as anyone. And he was Dormy, I don't know, Dormy 2, he might have been Dormy 3, and he's birdied the last 2 to get back in half. And so to win 6-1 and all those points count, really, really fantastic to watch. And we just get around each other and make sure that we're ready to go. And it was a very pleasing result.
So, as you heard, Michael Munn, very, very excited about that performance. I think he felt like, and yeah, sure, there's a premiership hangover. They were missing a couple as well. They were missing Zach Bray and Josh Hayes from their premiership team last year. So it was always going to be a little bit of an uphill battle to reach those same heights. But I think he just felt like his young lads hadn't quite come on as quickly as he had hoped. And it was Nick Wake, of all people, who he was really having to rely upon to be a bit of a bank of victory. But I reckon he felt like everyone really knuckled under this week. Everyone was there, ready, fresh, good to go, determined to perform, and they performed. And it gets them back into the top 4 at the expense of the Vines, and they're still going to be a threat towards the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely still going to be a threat. Ben, this is shaping up to be a very interesting Simpson leaderboard at the moment.
Teatree Gully in top with 4 wins from 4 matches. The Granger in second with 3 wins from their 4 matches. Then, how about this? Kooyonga, Glenelg, the Vines and Royal Adelaide. So that's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So Royal Adelaide in 6th at the moment. But all of those teams are on 2 wins from 4 matches. I get the feeling that there's going to be someone who has a pretty good 3-match out of 7 wins and misses the finals. That almost is certainly going to be. You're going to need 4, I think, to get in this time around. So lot to play for a couple of clubs. We actually haven't had a halved contest yet, which is unusual. There's been 0, 3.5, 3.5. So that might make it interesting, just whether someone can get 3.5 from 7 or a 4.5 from 7 and push ahead of the main pack. But right now we've got Kooyonga, Glenelg, the Vines and Royal Adelaide all on 2 wins. Mount Osmond on 1 and Thaxted Park on 0 from 4. But it is building beautifully, Soph, with 3 rounds remaining.
Yep, it's looking great, Hookie. I can't wait to see what it shapes up to be for finals.
We are going to wrap it up there, but we will be back later in the week with our preview show where we will look at every match of the Simpson and Sanderson Cup, heading into week 3 for the Sanderson, week 5 for the Simpson Cup. Thanks so much for your company once again, Soph. Looking forward to chatting with you later in the week.
Hookie, always a pleasure. Talk to you later on.
With the last putt sunk, that's a wrap on this golf edition of Hooked on Sport. Thanks for listening. Help us meet more golfers just like you by following us and leaving a review. We look forward to your company on the next golf edition of Hooked on Sport.